Welcome back to the channel. Today we're reacting to a video on Maxine Powell. Now let me know your thoughts about this video in the comments. But before we get started, I want you to consider checking out my other YouTube channel. The link will be in the description box below. Help me get this video to 500 likes. And as always, don't forget to like, share, watch more videos, and subscribe to the channel.
Just to start off, maybe you could tell me briefly why you were hired by Barry Gordy to work with the Motown artists and what your job was.
You don't want me, I have to ask a question. You don't want me to state my name or anything, just start
We just started.
Just start to talk. Well, I had a finishing and a modeling school, and it was quite popular. And I had about 3 female models and a couple of male models and a little boy and a little girl. And we worked for Chrysler. This was in the 50s, Chrysler, Packard, and Dodge, and which was unusual at that time because things were quite different than they are today. And I was also a producer, and I had an annual show once a year. And I did a souvenir booklet, and I wanted to find someone that did offset work. And because I had worked with 3 artists, one for the cover and and 2 other artists, they did the inside, the ads. And someone said to me that the Gordy Company, the Gordy Printing Company, was the best, and they did excellent work. So there's in Detroit here, there's a street called Farnsworth and St. Hatwine. So I went over and I met the delightful Mrs. Esther Edwards, and she and her brother Fuller Gordy were in the printing business together, and they were elated over this job. They had never seen anything like it before. And that's how I got to know the Gordys. Well, I didn't know the Gordys, but just Esther and her husband. He was a state representative, George Edwards, and I invited them as my guests for the show. That went on for 3 or 4 years. And then George, Esther's husband, decided to run for a seat on the Detroit City Council. And I had this huge building, it was called the Ferry Center here in Detroit, and it had a large ballroom. One held about 500, and the downstairs held about 400. Private party room that held 50, a couple of them, and a banquet kitchen, a bar that held 75 people, and 5 office space. So one of the offices was empty, and the person had just moved out. And and I donated that office for George's headquarters. He decided, even though he was a state representative, that he wanted to run for a seat on the Detroit City Council. So then his wife, Esther Gordy Edwards, became the campaign manager. And she did such an excellent job, she'd never did it before, that the governor wanted her to run his campaign. So then naturally the Gordy family is a close-knit family. So all of them came in to help with the campaign. And they were amazed at the building. It was absolutely beautiful. The ballroom floors looked like a bowling alley, and everything was very, very beautiful. And the mother, Mrs. Bertha Gordy, Senior, was interested in personal development that I teach. So she took my course. There was no Motown at this particular time. And her daughter that passed away took my course, and Esther. And then they have a younger daughter, Gwen Gordy. She's a charmer. And she became one of my models.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like the Gordy family had their hands in a little bit of everything. Tell me your thoughts about that in the comments.
So that's how, and then they were quite interested that in the 50s that I had models that modeled. I don't think of color. I think that anyone wants to master their skill and be successful that knows no color. So that's how I taught. So they were great. I wanted them to compete around the world with anybody. And so they were very impressed, the Gordys, at this particular time. There was no Motown. So
Let's just stop for a second here. Could you tell me about your first experience when you started working with some of the artists?
Well,
how they reacted to
what happened was that before I went into Motown, when Barry wrote a song called Lonely Teardrops, and Jackie Wilson was the artist, and they showcased him in my downstairs ballroom as a fundraiser for George Edwards' campaign. So any time they had an artist after they got going, before I went to Motown, they would have me come and watch the artist perform and then tell them what the artist needed. So when I did join the company in 1964, they asked me to open up the finishing school there. So I did. I opened in 1964 a finishing school, Motown Finishing School. And I worked with the artists on, first thing we worked with was who are you and what makes you tick. I don't teach singing. So I also told the artists that this department would groom and polish them so that they could appear in number one places around the country, and even before the king and queen. Of course, the youngsters, they came from humble beginning, and some were rude and crude and from the street and the project. But with me, it isn't where you come from, it's where you're going. So I told them where they would be appearing, and they laughed and said that I was out of my mind.
Answer a question for me. Do you think people today are just as connected as they were back then? You know, how they work hand in hand, side by side to make things happen?
Because all they wanted was a hit record. And this is what we did. We worked with developing class. First, who are you and what makes you tick? And I helped them to eliminate shyness and to get rid of any hang-ups, because oftentimes we start with body language. Your body language tells so much about you, you don't even have to say a word. And then the next thing we worked with was word power. Like, for instance, saying someone makes me sick and they get on my nerve and I can't stand them. They're ugly words. And so what we learn to say, we substitute pleasant words for ugly words. In other words, the person is difficult. And that takes care of everything. And if you use a positive word, the corners of your lips go upward, and it makes you smile. And negative words, the corners of your lips go down, such as stupid, and you're crazy, and you make me sick, and you get on my nerve, and you're the ugly one. So they learned how to be positive, and they also learned how great they were and what a unique human being they were. I used to say to them, if there's 9,000 million flowers in this one setting, each one of the flowers, regardless of the color of the flower, the size of the flower, the shape of the price, they all have something to offer. And it's a funny thing, no matter who you are, when you purchase a flower or a plant, the first thing you ask is, how do I keep this plant and keep it growing beautiful? People need the same concern, and that's what Motown artists got.
Tell me in the comments, what is your favorite flower to purchase? For me, it's a tulip.
Cut, please. Terrific. Watch out, please. Quiet, please. We're rolling. You have 3 minutes? So.
We have 2 minutes.
Maybe you could tell me briefly how some of the artists took to these classes. Did they, understand what you were doing for them?
Well, I explained it.
Tell me.
I explained it. All I said to them is, you're going to appear with the artist development. We're going to do just what I said about the flowers. Whatever you need, that's what you're going to get. And when you're 35 or 40, and you're appearing in a third or fourth club or a theater, it's going to be your fault because you're going to be trained to appear in number one places around the country. And that's what they did. And
Did all the people come to these classes, or did anybody say, "Oh, I don't need this sort of thing"?
well, they wasn't a, well, they had a choice of their life, you see. This is how I work, and this is how Mr. Barry Gorder worked. Nobody's forced to do anything. I was only there to enrich their life and help them skip to the bank. And if they weren't interested in that, then that was okay, you see. And I also told them, listen, some of the things that I'm going to tell you, I'm sure you heard it from your parents or whatever, but I'm not your mother. You see, I'm your teacher, and I'm here to enrich your life and help you skip to the bank. So your best thing for you to do is learn how to listen.
Tell me some of those people in the comments that enriched your life.
And follow positive guidelines, which is a skill, and to be determined and consistent. And you're going to go places in life, not only whether you're saying, but you're getting a basic finished background to do anything you want to do in life.
Okay. I think we're going to change our tape now so we have the roll.
Well, did that hit the spot? Or is it
When
too long?
When we start up again, what I'd like
Sleep.
close the door all the way, please, Leslie.
Did you say the title frame?
Why-
Gotcha.
Now, what do you want me to talk about?
Maybe you can tell me some specific examples of some of the things you taught to certain artists. For example, Marvin Gaye. What were some of the things that you worked on with him?
Well, with some of the main things I worked with Marvin Gaye was, in fact, Marvin Gaye said to me one day, Miss Powell, he called the finishing school a charm school. Miss Powell, I don't think I need a charm school, and I don't think I need any train. I said, Marvin, you don't need as much as some of the other artists, but you do sing with your eyes closed. And it gives the illusion that you're singing in your sleep. And number one places around the country, you have to have your eyes open. You can close your eyes for a certain gesture or whatever, but your eyes are the mirrors of your soul, so we have to work on that. And that's what we did. And then I said, and then we could improve on your walk because you're leading with your shoulders and your head. And you really should step with lifting your feet, and your hip bones should be forward. So then that makes you look taller and really sexy. And the position of your ears will be straight with your shoulder line. And that's what we did for Marvin Gaye.
I saw an old film of him at the Apollo with the review before you started working with him, and it's a very different look. He really had a lot of very kind of gritty, gutsy kind of movements. Was that something you?
Well, we worked with, everything had to be done in a classy way. So if they were doing the shake or whatever, well, we didn't do it in a vulgar way. Because to really dance, you need your feet and not your hips. It really makes a difference. But then later on, we had Mr. Atkins, Charlie Atkins, come in. So he worked more or less with the dance steps. See, I just work with the posture and the dealing with the clearness of the mind and knowing who you are and how to handle your body on stage, how to handle yourself on stage and off stage. See, because if you think that you're going to come on stage and be classy or whatever, that's not going to happen. You're a big phony. See, what you have to be, you have to live whatever you do all day long.
Tell me in the comments, what is your definition of classy or being classy?
I always told the artists, every time you're on stage, it's nothing but a dress rehearsal. I never allowed them to say, I knocked them cold last night, because if so, you're not going to grow. You aren't going to continue to improve. And then there was Diana Ross, who was a hard worker. She was only about a size 5. And when we really were getting ready for a show or a project, she worked so hard. No one worked as hard as she. And she would come down to about size 4. But then I remember with Diana Ross and the Supremes, they were sort of singing and like baby love, and kind of making, I thought it was making faces. I said, what are you doing? And they said, what are we doing? We're singing. I said, well, it looks like you're making faces to me. I said, Diana Ross said, well, my brother said I had beautiful eyes. I said, well, you do. But all you have to do is sing and keep your eyes still. Let everybody look at them. And she says, well, when I'm there, you say I'm frowning, but I'm souling. She says, I'm feeling it. And I said, well, we're going to have to learn how to project without where you look pleasant. You can't look like you're angry. You can't open your mouth so wide until you look like you're going to swallow the mic. We have to work with you because really a singer, all a singer needs is voice and expression. Anything else you have is an asset to your profession. So that's what we did. We worked on expressing, singing and expressing yourself, looking pleasant and with a smile and maybe a gesture, and how to handle a mic, you see, so that the mic don't handle you. I don't want you ever to look forward, lean forward. You do not protrude the buttocks. It always goes under. You have 2 hip bones in the front of you. Let's feel them. Let's find them. And you're going to push. You're going to push these hip bones forward like you're pushing them up under your chin. You know they won't go. But the more you do, this is gives you correct posture. And this is what they did. And then how to walk. You lift your feet and walk a straight line. 1 foot in front of the other. Point your toes through your shoes and walk and walk. Keep the hip bones forward and the position of the ears straight with your shoulder line. The torso of the body should never move. All you need to walk is to lift your feet and let the action carry the body. And that's what we did.
And you also taught people how to get in and
out of cars. That's body language. How to do it gracefully. And I do remember one time, I recall that I wanted to show them how to use, the artists, how to use prop. Because I know at one time or other, there would be production shows, which like Ed Sullivan or whatever. I wanted them to be prepared. And I said, well, I'm going to bring in 3 stools. And we're going to learn how to sit on a stool and how to sit on a table or a piano or whatever and look graceful and beautiful. And then not only that, if you're on TV or you're on a show or in a club or wherever, there's people in front of you and on the side of you. And you have to use you have to learn stage etiquette and stage technique because you can't protrude. The buttocks is not the greatest part of your body. So you don't want to protrude it because you're sending the wrong message. And the girls said, a bar stool? Well, I don't know why we should learn to sit on a bar stool. We don't go to bars. We don't even drink. I said, for your performance. You have to learn how to use all types of prop. And that's what we did. So now Mrs. Esther Gordy Edwards had charge of the management department.
At what age should they start teaching proper etiquette? Let me know in the comments.
And she did an excellent job. So about a month later or 2 months later, they had this appearance on the Mike Douglas show. And there he had 3 stools. And they were elated that they knew how to use the stool, because you never allow the buttocks to hang over the stool. You slide down on the base of your spine. You see, so it makes a whole different ball game. And then that of 2 pushes the hip bone forward, and you're slanted, and so you're not leaning forward, so that your eyes show. And then and that's a practice. See, it's an exercise. You have to practice and practice and practice and practice. It's an exercise so that it becomes a part of you.
Terrific. Come to close, please. Tell me about when the Supremes played the Copacabana. That must have been very special. You went with them, and tell me about that.
Well, now at the Copacabana, now in the studio at Artist Development, don't forget that we had Harvey Fuqua was our producer. I must bring that in, of Artist Development. And Maurice King was the band leader, music controller, and the musical director. He would go on the road, and he also was the vocal instructor and arranger. And then we had a person by the name of Johnny Allen. He played the piano, and he was the arranger. Then later on, Mr. Atkins, Charlie Atkins, came, who worked with the dance steps, and both of those men were very classy men. So you see, we taught class all the way through artist development.
Was there something special you needed to teach in order to perform at a place like the Copa?
Well, not the Copa, they were taught to perform anywhere. Say, at the at the Howard Theater or wherever. You don't go and perform. Now, now there was a special show that they put together. Well, I had nothing to do with that. That was Barry and Maurice King or whoever, you see. So, but as far as their performance of behavior, of body language, that was something that they learned and they did wherever they went, wherever. But we worked very hard for the Copa, because when we felt that we had the artists ready for national exposure, the Copacabana was the place that we showcased them, you see. So naturally I was with them as the finishing instructor. I taught them night and day. I worked for the company. I represented myself as a finishing instructor, and then I represented the company, and that's...
So tell me about what you did at the Copa.
At the Copacabana, whenever we thought we had the artists ready for national exposure, the Copacabana was the place. And of course I was there with them as a finishing instructor, and to see that everything went well and that they stayed with the routine that was planned for them. And I answered the door and the telephone every call. I had my bar set up and I mixed every drink. I never had anyone to have too much to drink in my room. Marvin, the Temptation once said to me, Miss Powell, I have to have 5 of these before I even know I've had a drink. I said, yeah, because all I want to do is relax you, and that you are an artist, so you don't need strong drinks. So then the artist couldn't understand. Why does she go to the door when she answered the door? And she said, my name's Maxine Powell, and offer them her hand. They didn't come to see her, they came to see us. So I had to explain to them, there's going to be prominent people coming to see you, and outstanding stars or whatever. And if you don't know their name, they get insulted because they feel you should know them. So the idea, since I'm a finishing instructor and I represent the company, I'll say to them, hello, I'm Maxine Powell. And guess what happened? I did that one night, and this gentleman said, and I'm Joey Bishop. And I said, well, Mr. Bishop, I'm so thrilled. The girls will just be love that you come to pay respect to them. Won't you come in? And I would fix him a drink or whoever. And I said, and the girls is taking a shower. They may not have been, but I didn't allow anybody to see the artists when they came off a stage for 20 minutes because they were taught to work so hard they were wringing wet, even their shoes was wet. So I went backstage after I'd fixed the drink, and I said to the Supremes, guess who's out front? Joey Bishop. Well, I didn't really know him that well at that time. So they got all excited. Oh, really? Oh, really? I said, just calm down now. I said, because you're gonna pay him the same respect. When he's appearing somewhere or whatever, you're gonna go and do the same thing. So now he's just a great artist, and that's all. So now I told him 5 minutes has gone by.
Let me know in the comments where you taught to conduct yourself this exact same way when you were younger.
So I said, in the next 15 minutes, one of you come out, and whoever, you can come out one at a time, but you must be out in 15 minutes. And they had lounging robes to wear backstage in their little dressing room where they were primed. Then they had the ones to wear when they came out into it was a hostess coat into the room to greet their guests. So they were ready, and they looked like they stepped out of a van box each time. See, and so that was. That's how we carry things, see. And and then I taught them etiquette and how to be gracious, how to be beautiful, the male and the female. You see, I remember one time with and then one other thing. The main thing when they appeared at the Copacabana or the Latin Casino or any place like that, main thing is to go downstairs to the kitchen, and I wanted one waiter and someone to bring the food up. And I'd find out what they wanted to eat and order it. And then I gave instruction that the minute that they did their last number and started up on the elevator, that is the same time I wanted someone to bring the food up. And then they wore little soft girdles. They would take them off. I'd have them take everything off, have the TV on for them, and I treated them like they were king and queen. You see, and then I would answer the door. I would bring back the souvenir booklet or whatever it was that they wanted autographed or whatever, and I would take it in the back where they were and tell them to sign it while they were eating. You see, but you don't have to stop. Just sign it in between or whatever. And
Great. Maybe you could give me a brief story about Martha Reeves.
Oh, about Martha Reeves. She was adorable to work with. And I didn't have a lot of problems with her with the new dress and the new this because she wasn't into the real glamour clothes. She was more or less was concerned about her vandellas. They always looked nice, but she was always teaching them and always trying to get them to do a certain something. But then when we were on the Motown Review, Martha did have a problem. She wasn't as secure as she wanted to, and she didn't feel as good about herself. And so it would take her maybe till 12 o'clock to kind of get herself together where she could feel relaxed and talk to people. So I said to her one day, Martha, it's because you don't wake up happy. I want to see you wake up smiling and happy. I want to see you handle every situation. No one is as great as you. You're your own person. And we have to work on that. I said, do you want, well, Miss Powell, it just looked like it takes me, I don't know how long to get, I said, well, do you want me to help you with that? And she said, yeah. So I said, what we're going to do, we're going to go to a bookstore and try to find what we call a joke book. And so we looked, we did, and we looked, and we finally found one that was kind of funny. And I said, now what you going to do, you're going to read this, you're going to go to bed with this, you're going to wake up with it, and when we're traveling on the bus, you're going to read it to loud because and share. You'll be sharing with the other artists, and then we'll all laugh and have. So then I explained to them, Martha, you've been complaining about Martha don't talk to you. Now what we have to do, we have to help Martha. So from now on, she's going to have this joke book, and she's going to be reading out aloud. She's going to share it with us, and if it isn't real funny, we're going to laugh anyway. And this is what we did.
Tell me something in the comments. Does this sound like something that you would like to implement within your life? Not only just for you, maybe your kids or other people in your family?
And then Martha got better, you see.
Great. Tell me about Smokey. You were going to tell me.
Oh, about Smokey. Well, you know, my theory is to stand tall. Push your hip bones forward, and let's see your eyes. And because the number one places around the country, they're not going to participate. They came to be entertained. So they're not going to entertain you. They're going to stand and give you a standing ovation. So Smokey, that was part of his act, to get down on his knees. And then the miracles, they always lean forward. Always lean forward. So I was trying to work with them to stand tall and push your hip bones forward and all of that bit. And they were beautiful. They were trying. And they started to, let me see, what was the name of that song? Monkey?
Maybe you could give me a brief story about Martha Reeves.
Oh, about Martha Reeves. She was adorable to work with. And I didn't have a lot of problems with her with the new dress and the new this, because she wasn't into the real glamour clothes. She was more or less was concerned about her vandellas. They always looked nice, but she was always teaching them and always trying to get them to do a certain something. But then when we were on the Motown Review, Martha did have a problem. She wasn't as secure as she wanted to, and she didn't feel as good about herself.
Tell me in the comments, could you kind of sense something like that? Or, she hit it very well? Let me know in the comments.
And so it would take her maybe till 12 o'clock to kind of get herself together where she could feel relaxed and talk to people. So I said to her one day, Martha, it's because you don't wake up happy. I want to see you wake up smiling and happy. I want to see you handle every situation. No one is as great as you. You're your own person. And we have to work on that. I said, do you want, well, Miss Powell, it just looked like it takes me, I don't know how long to get. I said, well, do you want me to help you with that? And she said, yeah. So I said, what we're going to do, we're going to go to a bookstore and try to find what we call a joke book. And so we looked, we did, and we looked, and we finally found one that was kind of funny. And I said, now what you're going to do, you're going to read this, you're going to go to bed with this, you're going to wake up with it, and when we're traveling on the bus, you're going to read it to loud because and share. You'll be sharing with the other artists, and then we'll all laugh and have. So then I explained to them, Martha, you've been complaining about Martha don't talk to you. Now what we have to do, we have to help Martha. So from now on, she's going to have this joke book, and she's going to be reading out aloud. She's going to share it with us, and if it isn't real funny, we're going to laugh anyway. And this is what we did. And then Martha got better, you see.
Great. Tell me about Smokey. You were going to tell me.
Oh, about Smokey. Well, you know, my theory is to stand tall. Push your hip bones forward, and let's see your eyes. And because the number one places around the country, they're not going to participate. They came to be entertained. So they're not going to entertain you. They're going to stand and give you a standing ovation. So Smokey, that was part of his act, to get down on his knees. And then the miracles, they always lean forward. always lean forward. So I was trying to work with them to stand tall and push your hip bones forward and all of that bit. And they were beautiful. They were trying. And they started to, let me see, what was the name of that song? Monkey, oh,
Worldwide? Okay.
there was a song, Mickey's Monkey, I think that was it. And that was one of the Smokey and the Miracles hit. And I was trying to show them how to stand up and sing that song. So they were very polite and trying. And they were singing and they had the mic but they were so awkward and they were Mickey's Monkey and they were so uncomfortable. And I went to say something to someone, and when I looked around, they were laying down again, and they were the biggest monkey, and they were doing an excellent job, So so I said to Barry, I think that they don't look that bad. We'll just leave them as they are, and as they grow older, they will stand up, and you will see their eyes, and they will sing. Then I'd like to tell you a little bit about when we were at the Copacabana with the Temps. They said, "What? Now this is supposed to be such a great club, and they don't even have a stage." I said, "But it's a prestige club." And I said, "You're not at the Fox Theater. You're on a different level now." And so they said, "Well, yeah, but we don't even have room to perform." I said, "Well, if you're popular, you won't have as much room as you have now, because they'll put all the tables on the floor, and you perform on the floor." I said, and they said, "Well, how are we going to do that?" I said, "Easy. I want all 5 of you to stand and touch fingers. Stretch your arms out and touch your fingers together. That's all the space you need to perform, not only here but in life. If you cover every inch of where your fingers are, you've done a thing." So they did. That settled that. Then they went out and they performed. Well, it was a different type of audience. They had their glasses looking, and they didn't applaud or whatnot. So then he came back in, and they said, "Miss Powell, I don't know if we can go back out there." I said, "Why?" I said, "Because they just stared at us." So I said, "Well, what do you want them to do?" I wanted to bring in a little joke. I said, "What do you want them to do? Close their eyes?" I said, "Well, you see, it's different. You don't have to run up and down like at the Fox Theater. You're in a different spot altogether. So what's going to happen is they're going to stand, if they like you, and give you a standing ovation. Don't get carried away. For that one standing ovation, that one performance, I want you to get 3 standing ovations. Just work on them, work on the audience." And that's what they did.
Tell me in the comments, out of the Temptations, what is your favorite Temptation song?
Yeah. Good ending. Perfect. And we have another one loaded. You were going to tell me about shopping for clothes
Well, I shopped for Diana Ross, the Supremes. I remember we were on the Dean Martin show, and it was the scene was going to be hot pink, and it was the only time we weren't ready, and so we went shopping. I went shopping in a strange town, and I think Andy Williams' wife at that time took me shopping, but the places that they took me, I couldn't get the things that I needed. I needed hot pink, but I needed a size 5, 7, and 9. So when we got back to the hotel, I asked there, where was a bridal shop, you see, and where was the leading bridal shop, and there I found a hot pink dresses 5, 7, and 9, and it had a little jacket and then sleeveless, and it was just fine. And later on, when we didn't have a lot of money, but I splashed those dresses with rhinestone, you see, so it gave another look for another show. And then I bought them mini dresses, and I did their makeup, and then when they got to the place where they felt they could do their own makeup, if I saw lipstick or whatever that I saw would look good. And each one had their section. I kept it beautiful in the back there in their little dressing room. Each one had their section and their mirror and whatnot, so that I would buy a lipstick and what I knew as a makeup artist what they needed. And if I made a mistake and it wasn't quite so, it should be, I just take it off the table. They'd never miss it because they had many lipsticks or whatever there. And then it came to the nails. Most of them was nervous and they had small nails. So I went to a factory in New York and bought a whole case of nails. And this is what I did because I studied cosmetology, so I ended up a manicurist too, you see. So, and I used to work at it. So I filed these nails down.
So she's a jack of all trades. Let me know, do you fit that description?
You see, so that each one had their own set. And that was at the time where you had the powder, and then you put the solution in and just on the nail and apply it to their real nails, and it would stick. Then you file them down to the shape they wanted. Well, then I kept those with their name on it, see, on their box, so we could use them over and over. And then the nails look good, you see. All parts of the body should look well groomed and polished. And then who else was it? Oh, and with Martha, we had to shop for a certain dress. Well, we didn't have any problem, and we found a beautiful dress and then you had to be sure that the youngsters liked the dresses, because after all, it's hard to perform or to do something that you don't like. So they cooperated beautifully, and we bought beautiful dresses, and then they looked good every day. We used walking suits, you see, so that I could change a blouse. I always carried 3 blouses and whatever, and jewelry, see, so we could look more glamorous or whatever. And then we used walking suits, you see, and we could dress them up or down. And
let me ask you just one different kind of question. What are you proudest of about that whole time when you worked with Motown?
I'm proud that the artists they could not understand that when I told them that you're going to be able to appear with this new department, artist development, you're going to be trained to appear in #1 places around the country and even before the king and queen. And they didn't believe it. They said that all they wanted was a hit record. And I said, class will turn the heads of kings and queens, and that's the main thing we're going to work on. And I'm very proud of them, because you don't hear a lot of negative things about Motown artists, and each one a class, and they are great performers, and I'm very proud of that.
Was the idea of this kind of training for people new? I mean, was Berry Gordy very clever? And
he didn't know anything about it. I mentioned earlier, it's hard for me to get that through, that I had to finish in a modeling school, and that I worked with just ordinary people, and they worked for Packer and as model, and Chrysler and Dodge, and they didn't have a feel for black girls. Dodge loved them so well, and the fellows, they did them in color. I just can't make it clear. You know, it seems like a miracle. Nothing is a miracle, you see. I don't care about anyone's color or where they live or how much money they have. I've never met anyone that I could not improve, and they stand tall around the world. Now, they may be slow, but there's only 4 things you need in this world, and that is to develop the skill of listening. And second is to develop the skill of following positive guidelines, whether you think it will work or not. And then being determined and consistent. And I make it easy. I make it funny. You see, I teach people how to laugh at themselves. And I teach them how to know who they are and what makes them tick. And it doesn't matter whether you're the cameraman or you're the producer or you're the writer or you're the singer or if you are the accountants or whatever. You see, I have to tell you this. I had one of my models. She was 18 years old. She went to Blue Cross Blue Shield, and she was there about 6 months. And they were told they told her, "We like how you carry yourself, Shirley. We think you're executive material." She went in as a clerk, and guess what? They did. They sent her to school, and she got her bachelor's degree. And then the next thing I knew, a little years later, they sent her, and she got her master's degree in administration. So it doesn't matter. I just can't get that through. It doesn't matter what you do. It's who do you develop? How do you develop? And what do you stand for? All you have to do is find out who you are. And
Tell me, who are you in the comments? How do you develop and what do you stand for?
what makes you tick, and find out your skills. What is it you do well? See? Everybody does something well. And then we all may have some kind of hang-ups. You see? So you get rid of them. You find out what a unique human being you are. Whatever you're doing that's negative, you didn't come in the world doing that. You were helpless and innocent when you came in the world. And anything that we're doing that isn't productive and negative, it's something that we have been conditioned to. It's not the real you. And that's what life is about.
Thank you.
Okay. Ready, John? Okay, just that idea of where did
Well, I'd like to just mention again, because it's very, very important, that when I met the artists, they were young, they came from humble beginnings, and not all, but some of them were rude and crude and from the street and the project. But with me, it is not where you come from, it's where you're going. I told those artists, I said, this artist development is going to be different than the records. You're going to learn how to perform, you're going to graduate and become a great performer, and you're going to appear in #1 places around the country, even before the king and queen. It was my pleasure to work with the artists because they were diamonds in the rough, and they just needed grooming and needed to find out who they were, and that they were loved and believe that they could be successful wherever. See, I had nothing to do with voice. I don't teach that. But smiling and being beautiful, because every time you smile, every muscle in your body is relaxed for that split second, and we all need that. And then some of them turned out to be rubies and emeralds. I'm very proud of them. They're class today.
We all start off as a diamond in the rough, but often we all need help to shine. Please tell me your thoughts about this video in the comments. And as always, don't forget to like, share, watch more videos, and subscribe to the channel.